My name is Erwin Shustak. I'm the founder and managing partner of a law firm based in the U.S., Shushtak, Reynolds and Partners. We are a firm that specializes in a particular area: securities law, financial services law, and complex business litigation, and we do primarily dispute resolution, litigations, arbitrations throughout the United States. We have offices in New York and several offices in California. I live and work primarily out of the California office, although I travel quite extensively for our clients. I probably, like most people in IR, I first learned of IR by getting emails and then follow-up phone calls from Ross, who reached out to me, and this was back in 2011. And I initially agreed to become a member of IR, thinking it would just be a forum, a listing where I would pay my dues and sit by the phone, check my emails, and business would come flowing in. Of course, a year later, when nobody called, nobody emailed me, and nothing came out of it, Ross called me to talk about renewing our membership. And I explained to him that I was disappointed nothing had come of it. And he said something to me that really resonated. It was something my parents told me when I was younger, and that is, if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend. Meaning, if you want to get something out of this, you have to put something into it. And he asked me to join the nascent disputes committee. I decided to go to the next year's annual conference. I believe I was one of the first hosts of a cocktail reception. I thought that would be a good way to get my name out there, get to meet people. Lawyers always appreciate somebody giving them something to drink. And I think this is my 5th annual meeting. I've been to the San Francisco meeting, and it's turned out to be something very different than what I expected it to be initially. Well, there's more people, first and foremost, and particularly in the U.S. I was one of the early U.S. members, and at first I thought that would be a good thing. And what's happened over time is more and more U.S. members have joined, and I've gotten to know them. The benefit to our firm, and to me particularly in the U.S., has been that when we have a case, no matter what state it's in, and we handle cases all across the country, if it's in Florida, I know Gary Davidson from the Disputes Committee, I will call him up. I've just recently called up, I needed a lawyer in Atlanta, Georgia, familiar with a certain type of distributorship franchise law. I called Michael Rosenblatt up. So I now have an entire network in the US that can help us with any matters in all 50 states. So it's in the US, it's expanded greatly. It's benefited our firm to a large extent by giving us a total network. I think the annual conferences are getting better. The mid-year conferences are getting better as IR learns, it gets its own experience. And for me, it just gets better and better every conference I go to. The primary role of my role on the Disputes Committee is to make sure that I'm on all the conference calls that are primarily geared towards planning the next event, coming up with an agenda, topics. I'm always involved in those. I always try to give input, come up with ideas that might be of interest to all the members. I rewrote the disputes page because I didn't think it was well written and needed more writing, so I wrote that. And I believe that I've given some input back to the IR management that has made some significant changes, or at least people have commented on that to me, that they're very happy with those changes. Let me split into 2 parts. In the U.S., because there are so many U.S. members, in the last month alone, I was in New York before I went from New York to Munich and now to Amsterdam. When I was in New York, I met with my colleague in New York who said that we had a case we were getting involved in that involved a television show called The Voice that originated in the Netherlands. And we have a litigation pending in state court in California, but there's an ancillary proceeding that needs to be handled in the Netherlands. And he said, we need a Netherlands lawyer. Do you know anyone? I said, well, of course, I'm on my way to Amsterdam for the annual conference. Immediately called up John Wolfs, who I know from prior meetings and having stayed friendly with him. So John was retained to represent us in the Netherlands. 2 days ago, I got a call from a client who needed help in New York on a real estate matter. I put him in touch with Richard Sussman, who was not at the meeting this year. Richard said, I'm happy to speak to him. Richard is the best person for that particular problem. About a month ago, for an Austrian publicly owned company that we represent, we had a dispute with a distributor in Georgia. I needed to set things up before I left for this trip in case there was going to be litigation. It would have been in Atlanta, Georgia. I got in touch with Michael Rosenblatt, who I also know from prior meetings, who does this work. He and his partner were very responsive. I left things in their hands with one of my partners back in San Diego. In case something happened, this is what they were going to do. That's just really in the last several weeks. My first go-to database when someone says, do you know anybody who can handle this or that, is to typically look at the IR list. And of the IR list, my first call is placed to a member that I know. Someone was in our office about a month ago. They needed something done in California, but they needed a proceeding brought in Venezuela. Somebody had died, but they died, excuse me, in Venezuela. Now, I don't know any of the members from Venezuela. I've never met any Venezuelan members, but I gave him the names of the four member firms. I said, contact these firms, these people, and tell them I referred you. I'm from IR Global, and they'll be able to help you. So it comes up quite a bit on the outbound basis. We have received referrals from as far away as Kuwait. The Taher law firm is a member, I think, of IR. Mr. Taher is a Kuwaiti lawyer, but he went to law school in the US in Georgetown, speaks absolutely perfect, fluent English. His firm referred a client to us that needed two different litigations brought in California. We're just finishing those up. We've received work assignments from the Czech Republic, from Sarka and Ailes and their firm. We've done that work. We've referred matters to them in turn. When someone asked us for, out of the blue, someone said, do you know a lawyer in the Czech Republic? I said, I know terrific lawyers in the Czech Republic. And we referred matters out. I've spoken to Nick Chen in China about some matters. It comes up fairly often. We have an eclectic client mix. And because we also practice in New York, we deal with a lot of very international companies and people, and anytime something comes up, the first thing I'll do is, do I know an IR member? If not, let me go to the list and find out who the IR member is of that jurisdiction. You know, I joined initially, the name was International Referral. And honestly, when I joined, one of the first things I did, I said to both Ross and Tom, I said, it may be a good name to describe what the members want. They want referrals on an international basis, but looking at the organization from the outside in, from the clients that I might say, well, we're a member of this organization, it's a bad name. It's a great organization, terrible name. It sounds like we're just a bunch of lawyers that belong to an organization so we can get referral fees. So I really encourage them to think about rebranding the business, and I believe that, I'd like to think I had some significant input into the change from International Referral to IR Global, which is a much better branding to present to clients and leave the referral portion of it out. But I originally joined thinking, well, I'll get business or I'll be able to, make connections, which has happened. But the real benefit for me is meeting people from all over the world, learning how different lawyers manage their practices, how they structure their fees, how they get clients, how they market, what they do right, what they do wrong. And I've met some really very interesting people that have similar backgrounds to myself. Coincidentally, the first meeting I went to, I was talking to Hans Gertz from Germany, and we were just talking and introducing ourselves. And it turned out that Hans had been the first non-US partner of a major New York-based firm that I had started my career at. And we were talking about people we knew in common, and I was very impressed that he came from this firm because it's a very well-known firm. And then Nick Chen walked by and said, did you just mention Kay Scholler? I said, yes, we both were there. He said, well, I was there also. So here we are, 3 lawyers, one from China, one from Germany, one from California, in London, and we all had worked at the same very high quality firm. That gave me a tremendous comfort level. And normally the people I meet here typically are people that started out at larger firms that have gone to a smaller platform. So they have the background, the expertise, the intelligence, but they bring a different dimension, which is they're smart business people, and they have good judgment, and they know how to be practical and pragmatic, which is what our clients and our firm really needs. I heard, and we don't do very much intellectual property work, but I heard that a group of IR members, I think it was a newsletter or something, or someone asked me for suggestions. When I heard that there were a lot of IR members coming to San Diego, which is my hometown, I wanted to host a gathering, which we did. It was a beautiful time of the year, and I think it was May or June. We had an outdoor party in our office building. Has really nice outdoor space in downtown San Diego, and we probably had 50 to 60 members come to the cocktail reception, met the people in our firm. And I did that really because I have a very warm feeling towards IR. And if I know that people are visiting, when I get a notice that there's someone visiting Southern California from another country, I always invite them to come see me. And when I heard that 50 or 60 people from IR were going to be in San Diego, I felt that's what you do. You invite people to a celebration and meet them and say hello and be a good host. My experience is, and it's the same thing I tell people when they call and ask me whether I think about IR and they're considering joining IR, and that is, it's an organization like any organization that's built on relationships, and the key is getting involved, participating, giving into the organization, whether you're on a committee or at the San Francisco meeting, I was asked if I could help out with a speaker, and I have a very dear friend of mine I went to college with who left college and moved to California, or Houston actually, and wound up co-founding what became the largest men's retail chain in the world, Men's Warehouse, based in the United States. He was a speaker, and I think people loved him. He was very well received. I was proud to introduce him. He had a great story to tell. So I would tell people that it's a great organization, quality people, get involved, come to the conferences, as many as you can, just get to know people, stay in touch with them, and build relationships, and from those relationships, everything else will flow. But the relationships come first, the effort comes first, then the relationships will turn into productive business all around for everyone.